When someone looks at you in the middle of a heated conflict and says, "Calm down," your brain does not hear a gesture of peace. It hears an order. It hears an attempt to undermine your experience and dictate your emotional state. Instantly, your ego prepares for combat. You do not feel calm. You feel exposed, misunderstood, and intensely defensive. Here is the psychological truth that most communication advice completely overlooks. You are rarely angry simply because of the original argument. You are angry because you feel unheard. And when someone demands that you become calm, they are asking you to erase your emotional reality just to make them feel comfortable. For years, mainstream self-help has offered a superficial solution to this problem. They tell you to breathe deeply, wear a quiet smile, and maintain a passive demeanor. They tell you that emotional self-control means acting as if nothing bothers you. They are selling a dangerous delusion. Forced calmness is not strength. It is a psychological mask. It is an act of internal suppression that leaves you feeling resentful and hollow beneath the surface. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood this trap with remarkable clarity. They never taught humans to become unfeeling statues or to suppress their genuine human nature. Instead, they offered something infinitely more powerful. They taught us how to cultivate an unshakable inner foundation. They taught us the subtle, profound difference between trying to stay calm and learning how to remain grounded. Welcome back to the Stoic Path, a sanctuary for those who seek to navigate modern chaos through timeless wisdom. Let us begin by exposing the fundamental misunderstanding that surrounds Stoicism in modern culture. When people hear the word Stoic, they often imagine a cold, detached individual who suppresses every form of sorrow, anger, or joy. They envision someone who experiences disrespect or hostility and simply stares back with empty eyes. This is a complete distortion of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus, one of the most brilliant Stoic teachers who endured years of brutal slavery before gaining his freedom, never advocated for the suppression of human emotion. He understood that raw, instinctual emotional impressions arise involuntarily within us. When someone insults you, a surge of adrenaline is a natural biological response. The Stoics called these initial, involuntary reactions propatheia. They are automatic, physical human responses that you cannot prevent. Where Stoicism truly begins is what happens 1 second after that initial surge. Epictetus taught that while you cannot control the initial emotional wave, you hold absolute sovereignty over whether you grant your assent to that wave. You decide whether to let that emotion become your master or your servant. Epictetus famously wrote that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Modern culture views this quote as a simple lesson in polite etiquette, but in Stoic psychology, it is a profound declaration of mindfulness and presence. Listening twice as much as you speak means creating a deliberate gap between what you perceive and how you respond. Consider 2 distinct individuals facing the exact same intense confrontation. The first person practices forced calmness. They force their face into an expressionless stare. Their voice becomes tight and monotone. On the outside, they appear quiet. But on the inside, a war is raging. Their jaw is clenched. Their heart is pounding. They are desperately trying to suppress their rage because they believe showing emotion is a sign of weakness. The person on the other side of the argument immediately senses this inauthentic barrier. They feel stonewalled and patronized. The conflict does not de-escalate. It quietly rots into passive-aggressive bitterness. Now consider the second person. This individual practices Stoic groundedness. When insulted or told to calm down, they do not pretend that the blow did not land. They feel the surge of heat in their chest, but they do not panic. They acknowledge their own anger without letting it seize the steering wheel of their mind. They slow down their breath. They look directly at their counterpart with clarity and composure. They do not deny the reality of the moment, nor do they rush to defend their ego. Who holds true power in that room? The first person is merely wearing armor over a fragile wound. The second person has rendered themselves unshakable. Fake calmness is an act of avoidance. True groundedness is the ultimate expression of internal sovereignty. To understand why this distinction is so vital, we must turn to Seneca, the great Stoic statesman and playwright. In his masterwork De Ira, or On Anger, Seneca provided one of the most ruthless analyses of human rage ever written. Seneca wrote that anger is a temporary madness. Unlike other vices that corrupt us slowly, anger seizes the mind instantly, clouding reason and destroying relationships that took decades to build. He observed that when we surrender to anger, we become like a falling building that shatters itself upon the very structure it crushes. Yet, Seneca's warning was not a call for emotional numbness. He argued that the true danger of anger lies in its ability to hijack your rational capacity. When someone tells you to calm down, your instinctual anger urges you to strike back immediately, to prove them wrong, to raise your voice, or to hurl an insult of your own. Seneca advised that the ultimate antidote to this madness is delay. He wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is time. Not because time erases the issue, but because time restores the authority of your rational mind, what the Stoics called the hegemonikon, the ruling center of the soul. So, how do you operationalize this ancient wisdom when you are standing in the heat of a real-world conflict? This is where you deploy the first core Stoic protocol, the architecture of the 3-second gap. When you feel the sudden sting of disrespect or the patronizing command to calm down, consciously freeze your tongue for 3 full seconds. Breathe in through your nose, expand your diaphragm, and count silently. 1, 2, 3. To an observer, 3 seconds passes in the blink of an eye, but within your nervous system, 3 seconds is an eternity. It is the exact neurological window required for your brain to shift processing from the amygdala, the primitive center of instinct and fear, to the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, strategy, and self-possession. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself the fundamental question posed by Marcus Aurelius in his private journals. Does this external event have the power to destroy my character? If the answer is no, then the event itself is harmless, unless you choose to poison your own mind with resentment. This brings us to the second Stoic protocol, the conscious deceleration of cadence. Observe human beings when they lose control of their emotions. Their pitch rises, their tempo accelerates. They rush their sentences, desperate to throw as many words as possible before they can be interrupted. This rapid speech is a physical manifestation of internal panic. When you deliberately slow down your cadence, speaking at half your normal speed, you engage in a powerful act of physiological feedback. You send an unmistakable signal to your own nervous system that there is no immediate threat to your survival. You calm your own biology from the inside out. Simultaneously, you alter the entire social dynamic of the room. Throughout history, the individuals who commanded the greatest respect were rarely the loudest or the fastest speakers. Consider Abraham Lincoln during the darkest, most divisive hours of the American Civil War. Surrounded by furious cabinet members and screaming critics who demanded immediate, rash actions, Lincoln became famous for his deliberate, measured pauses. He would sit in silence for several moments before responding to an attack. His calm, deliberate cadence forced everyone else in the room to lower their volume and adjust to his pace. Silence and slowness are not signs of submission. They are the hallmarks of absolute authority. Now, what do you actually say when someone looks you in the eye and uses the phrase, "calm down," as a weapon to disarm you. If you respond with passive-aggressive philosophy or sarcastic questions, you fail the Stoic test. You allow their provocation to dictate your behavior. Instead, apply what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. Epictetus taught that the world is sharply divided into two categories: things that are up to us and things that are not up to us. Other people's opinions and emotional outbursts belong to the external world. Your words, your character, and your boundaries belong entirely to you. If someone attempts to dismiss your valid emotional reality by telling you to calm down, do not debate your right to feel. Do not raise your voice. Look at them calmly and state a clear, unyielding boundary. I hear what you are saying, but I need a moment to process this conversation so we can actually address the root issue. If they persist in pressing you, trying to force a reaction, lower your volume and slow down your words. I am fully committed to resolving this problem with you. However, I will not conduct this discussion while we are rushing or raising our voices. Notice the psychological shift. You are not submitting to their order, nor are you exploding in rage. You are acknowledging their presence while asserting total ownership over your timeline and your emotional process. You have shown them that nobody on this earth has the power to dictate your internal state without your explicit permission. Real emotional mastery is not about becoming a cold, unfeeling stone that ignores the pain and complexity of human existence. It is about becoming the anchor. When the storm rages, when the waves crash against the shore, when the people around you yield to panic and rage, the anchor does not fight the ocean. The anchor simply holds its position because it is grounded in something far deeper than the surface turbulence. You do not need to win every argument you are invited to. The desire to win every verbal fight is nothing more than the desperate cry of a fragile ego seeking validation from the outside world. The true Stoic seeks something far greater than victory over others. The true Stoic seeks victory over themselves. They understand that preserving their dignity, protecting their internal peace, and acting with honor are worth far more than the fleeting satisfaction of a clever comeback. Life will continue to test you. Today, tomorrow, and for the rest of your years, you will encounter people who disrespect your boundaries and demand that you bend to their emotional whims. You cannot control their behavior, but you will always, until your final breath, retain absolute control over how you choose to respond. I am Jason. If this deep dive into Stoic psychology brought clarity to your mind today, subscribe to join our community of modern practitioners. Before you step back into the noise of the world, take a moment to seal this lesson in your mind. Leave a comment below with these 5 words. I choose to stay grounded. Write it with intention. Let it serve as a solemn contract with yourself that from this day forward, you will not hand the keys to your mind over to anyone else. Until next time, stay sharp, remain honorable, and above all, stay grounded.